Elias Ward, a quiet human mechanic working on a large trade station orbiting a distant star. The station is full of alien species. Humans are rare here and mostly ignored. Elias lives a simple routine until he gets caught in the middle of a public argument involving an alien ambassador named Seria T-Law, a respected diplomat from a powerful species. The ambassador is being confronted by a hostile alien group who accuse her of spying and breaking ancient laws. Elias watches from the back of the crowd, confused but alert. Suddenly, Seria looks right at him, straight through the crowd, straight into his eyes. She steps forward, raises her voice so everyone hears, and says, "He is my partner." Everyone goes silent. Elias freezes. He has never met her in his life. The hostile group reacts in shock. The crowd begins shouting. Security forces rush in. Before Elias can speak, Seria grabs him by the wrist and whispers, "Please, if they think you are with me, we have a chance to escape." And she pulls him into one of the dark maintenance tunnels. Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The Vega 9 trade station floated in the dark like a giant metal lantern, its silver hull glowing against the endless black sea of stars. Ships of all kinds arrived and left every hour, sleek alien cruisers, heavy mining barges, tiny personal shuttles, and even old human-made cargo pods drifting in with worn paint and patched engines. To most beings who lived here, the station was a city, loud, crowded, full of flashing lights and strange smells. But for Elias Ward, it was just his workplace. He did not come here searching for adventure. He did not dream of fame or danger. He only wanted a quiet life with steady pay and peace. Humans were rare on Vega 9, only a few hundred out of tens of thousands of inhabitants. Most aliens looked at humans with curiosity, some with respect, some with confusion. But Elias never cared much about attention. He fixed things, broken doors, damaged pipes, engines that refused to start, and then he went home. A simple life, a safe life. He never knew, as he walked toward the central promenade that day, that his quiet world was about to end. The crowd gathers. Elias was on his way to repair a cooling unit when he heard shouting. Not normal station noise, not the usual marketplace chatter. This was angry, sharp, rising like a storm. He paused and listened. The voices came from the main plaza, only a short walk ahead. Great, he thought, probably another political fight. He considered walking the long way around, but the cooling unit was already overheating. If he took the detour, it might fail completely, so he sighed and stepped toward the noise. When he walked into the plaza, he saw a huge circle of aliens pressed together, facing a small raised platform. Hovering drones lit the area with harsh blue lights, and in the center of the circle stood a woman, tall, graceful, with silver blue skin and bright violet eyes. Elias recognized her immediately. Seria T-Law, ambassador of the Etherian Union, one of the station's most respected leaders. She stood calm and proud, even as a group of hostile aliens faced her. Their armor was marked with red stripes and sharp black edges, symbol of the Vorkar Syndicate, a dangerous faction known for stirring conflict among species. A Vorkar commander stepped forward. He was tall, with a reptilian face and deep, glowing yellow eyes. His voice cut through the air like a blade. "Ambassador Seria," he growled, "you stand accused of stealing ancient data and spying on the Syndicate. We demand you surrender." The crowd gasped. Seria did not shrink or tremble. She lifted her chin. "I have done no such thing. You create lies to start war." The commander hissed, "Where is your partner? You claimed you were not working alone." Seria paused. Elias noticed a flicker in her eyes, fear or calculation, he could not tell. There was no partner. Everyone knew Seria worked alone. She was famous for her independence. The commander leaned closer. "No partner, then the charges stand. You are alone, ambassador, and alone you cannot escape judgment." He raised a hand. Several armored guards stepped forward. The crowd murmured in panic. Some backed away, some shouted for peace, others cheered for action. And then Seria turned. She looked directly past the front row. Past the shouting guards. Past the shaking civilians. Straight at Elias Ward. Elias froze. Why is she looking at me? He felt like prey caught in a spotlight. Seria stepped off the platform and pointed directly at him. Her voice rang out clear and loud. He is my partner. The entire plaza went silent. Every head turned toward Elias. Every eye focused on the human mechanic, standing there with a tool bag in his hand, and confusion painted across his face. The station explodes in chaos. Elias blinked. What? No, wait, I. But the commander roared, lies, this human is no diplomat. The crowd erupted, shouting, pointing, questions flying. The Vorkar guards moved to seize Seria. Security forces pushed toward the scene, unsure which side was correct. Before Elias could think, Seria sprinted through the crowd straight toward him. She grabbed his wrist tightly. Don't speak, she whispered, just follow me. Before Elias could protest, she pulled him into a narrow maintenance tunnel behind a row of vending stalls. The metal door slammed shut behind them, blocking out the noise. Elias struggled to catch his breath. The tunnel was dim, lit only by old flickering panels along the walls. Why did you say that? He demanded. I needed a partner, Seria replied quickly. I'm not your partner. You are now, unless you want the syndicate to kill you. Elias opened his mouth, then closed it. He could not argue with that. Seria leaned against the wall, breathing hard. The Vorkar syndicate wants to frame me. They want war. I have information that proves their plan, but I cannot send it from the main channel. They have corrupted the station's communication network. Elias frowned. So what does that have to do with me? Seria pointed at the tools hanging from his belt. You are a mechanic. You have access to service shafts the syndicate cannot track. Elias stared at her like she was insane. I fix pipes, I handle broken fans. I'm not trained for alien politics. Seria stepped closer, her eyes intense. I don't need a soldier, I need someone the syndicate will not suspect. Humans are overlooked here, and that makes you perfect. Before Elias could answer, a loud clang echoed from the tunnel entrance. Seria's expression hardened. They found us. The chase begins. Move, she ordered. Elias followed, heart racing, legs shaking. He wasn't built for danger. He wasn't trained for anything like this. He was just a man who liked quiet shifts and broken machines. But now he was running through maintenance shafts with an alien ambassador who had just declared him her partner in front of half the station. They turned down a dark corridor barely wide enough for two people. Pipes hissed overhead. The floor vibrated as heavy footsteps echoed behind them. Are they really after me too? Elias whispered. Yes, Seria replied. You are now a link to me. They will assume you know everything I know. But I don't know anything. That won't matter to them. Great, perfect, wonderful, Elias wanted to scream. Seria stopped suddenly and placed a hand on the cold metal wall. There is a service hatch here, help me open it. Elias knelt beside her and used his tools to remove the bolts quickly. This part at least he understood. His hands moved automatically, even though they were shaking. Behind them, the syndicate hunters entered the corridor. There, a deep voice growled. Bright lights swept across the walls. Hurry, Seria urged. The hatch opened with a metallic groan, revealing a narrow ventilation passage. Seria crawled in first. Elias followed just as laser fire scorched the floor behind him. He yanked the hatch shut. In the vents, the ventilation shaft was cramped metallic and filled with the sound of their breathing. Elias crawled after Seria, trying not to look down through the grates below. How long have they been after you? He asked. 2 days, Seria answered. I discovered a secret transmission inside the syndicate's secure files. Why were you inside their files? That seems not safe. I was investigating peace talks. Something felt wrong. And you found something? Yes, proof they want to spark a massive conflict between the Ethran Union and 3 other species. Elias swallowed hard. And you think I can help stop that? I know you can. Elias laughed nervously. You don't know me at all. I know enough, she said without turning back. They reached the end of the shaft, where it dropped down into a dark maintenance floor. Seria motioned for silence and listened. Footsteps echoed somewhere below. Slow, heavy searching. Elias held his breath. A small drone floated past the opening, its red eye scanning the shadows. Elias' muscles tightened. The drone paused, almost sensing them. Then it drifted away. Seria exhaled softly. We need to reach the old cargo wing. There is a hidden communication array there, one the Syndicate has forgotten. Elias frowned. That area is closed off, it's been unsafe for years. Exactly, which means it is the perfect place to hide. The old cargo wing. They reached the old cargo wing through a series of dusty service tunnels that smelled like burnt metal and stale air. The area was abandoned long ago after a structural accident. Many workers claimed it was unsafe, haunted by echoes of the collapse. The huge doors slid open halfway before getting stuck. Elias forced them the rest of the way. Inside, the cargo wing was dark except for emergency lights blinking in long intervals. Stacks of old crates created long shadows that stretched across the floor like twisted claws. We will be safe here for a short moment, Seria said. We better be, Elias muttered. Seria pulled out a small crystalline device from her belt. It glowed faintly. This contains the evidence of the Syndicate's plan. If we activate the hidden array, the message will reach the Union fleet. Elias nodded slowly. And what do you need me to do? Help me repair the array. It hasn't been used in years. Repairing old machines, that part Elias could handle. He felt a tiny spark of confidence. But before they could move further inside, the cargo wing lights flickered. Then went out. All of them. The darkness swallowed everything. Elias froze. Seria. I'm here, she whispered. Stay close. A faint humming sound filled the air. Not machinery, not airflow, something else. Then a metallic clank echoed from the far end of the room. Another. It seems, Seria whispered, we were followed. A bright white beam lit up from the doorway. A Syndicate soldier stepped inside, holding a scanning drone. Behind him, more soldiers appeared as dark silhouettes. We know you are here, a deep voice boomed, and we know the human is not your partner. Elias felt his heart jump into his throat. Seria grabbed his arm. Get ready to run. The drone's red light passed over the crates. Then it stopped. Right on Elias' face. The red light from the scanning drone hit Elias full in the face, bright and cold. He froze like an animal caught in headlights. His lungs refused to pull in air. He could see the Syndicate soldier's dark, reptilian eyes widen in satisfaction. There, the soldier growled, target located. Seria grabbed Elias by the shoulder and shoved him behind a crate, just as a burst of energy fire scorched the floor where he had been standing. Elias stumbled and fell onto his elbows, the heat of the blast still burning in his mind. Move, Seria commanded. Elias scrambled to his feet as more laser bolts shot across the cargo hall. Crates exploded into pieces, sending metal fragments flying. The entire wing shook with noise and blinding flashes of light. Seria led the way through the maze of broken storage containers, moving with speed and grace. Elias ran behind her, tripping over debris, breathing hard, his legs shaking every step. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a spy. He was a mechanic who had been pulled into something far beyond his world. But now survival was the only thing on his mind. Another bolt streaked past his head, close enough that he felt the heat brush his cheek. He ducked behind a container and pressed his back against the cold metal. His heart hammered like a heavy engine. Seria crouched beside him, checking her small crystalline device. We must reach the far wall, she said. The hidden array entrance is behind the old cargo lift. Elias peeked over the crate. Soldiers spread out across the wing, scanning every shadow, every gap. Drones floated through the air, their red lights sweeping in slow, patient arcs. They'll catch us before we get 2 steps, Elias said, voice trembling. Seria looked at him with calm determination. Not if you trust me. He stared back at her. In this darkness, her violet eyes shone like stars. She was scared too, he could see it, but she pushed through. She believed they could make it. He swallowed hard and nodded. All right, he said, what do we do? The escape plan. Seria placed her hands against the floor and closed her eyes. Her skin glowed faintly. Elias watched in confusion as she breathed softly, and her palms formed delicate patterns of light on the metal beneath them. What are you doing? He whispered. Ethrin energy sense, she murmured. I'm checking the structural layout below us. After several seconds, the light vanished and she stood up. There's a service hatch under that crate, she said, pointing to one of the largest containers in the room. If we drop into the lower level, we can move unseen. Elias looked at the crate. It was massive, at least 20 times heavier than both of them combined. Seria, he said slowly, that crate is not moving. Seria smiled slightly. That's why I brought you. Elias blinked. What, I can't lift that? You don't have to. You just need to unlock the magnetic clamps beneath the floor panel. Elias felt a rush of relief. That I can do. They crawled along the floor behind a row of crates, staying low to avoid the scanning drones. Whenever lights passed overhead, they froze. Elias felt sweat run down his temples even in the cold air. Finally, they reached the massive crate. Elias knelt and pulled off a small access plate near the floor. Inside were 4 old magnetic lock units, rusted, corroded, barely functioning. Perfect. Give me a minute, he whispered. Seria kept watch while Elias worked. His hands shook at first, but once he started focusing on the machinery, everything else faded. Wires, clamps, connections, this was his world. Danger, aliens, war, they all melted away when he had tools in his hands. He clipped wires, bypassed circuits, and rewired the locks, slipping into a calm mechanical rhythm. Above them, syndicate footsteps echoed closer. How much longer? Seria whispered. Almost, Elias hissed, tightening the last wire. Done. He pressed a button on the panel. The crate jerked. Then it slid sideways with a deep metallic rumble, revealing a square maintenance hatch beneath it. Seria nodded. Excellent. She opened the hatch and dropped into the dark. Elias followed, pulling the hatch shut above him just as a drone's red eye swept across the top of the crate. They climbed down a narrow ladder into a lower maintenance corridor dimly lit by emergency strips. Dust hung in the air, untouched for years. Safe for now. The lower corridor. Elias dropped from the last ladder rung and landed beside Seria. The old corridor stretched ahead, filled with pipes and humming conduits. Here the air smelled like rust and old coolant. This way, Seria said. They moved quickly, footsteps echoing softly. Elias didn't ask how she knew exactly where to go. It didn't matter. She seemed to understand the station better than some people who had lived here for decades. After several minutes of walking, they reached an old, sealed cargo lift. Its doors were covered in dust and metal corrosion. This is it, Seria said softly. Behind this is the hidden array. Elias knelt to inspect the lift console. The screen was dead. The buttons were rusted. Half the wiring was burned out. It's not going to open the normal way, he said. Seria placed her hand on the door. Can you still make it work? Elias looked at her. He was tired, scared. His body felt like it was running on fumes, but she believed in him. He wasn't sure why, but that mattered. I'll try, he said. He pulled off the panel and began working. The syndicate finds them. Elias worked quickly, splicing wires and forcing power into the lift controls. Seria stood behind him, guarding the corridor. Just as he reconnected the last wire, a distant metallic thud echoed down the passage. Seria stiffened. They found the hatch. We need another minute, Elias whispered, hands trembling as he twisted the final connection. Footsteps echoed, many footsteps. Drones hummed, growing louder. Seria lifted her wrist device and prepared a defensive pulse. Hurry, Elias. I'm trying, he hissed. Lights flickered as the old lift shuddered. Slowly, painfully, the metal doors began to slide open. At the same moment, 3 syndicate soldiers appeared at the far end of the corridor. There, one of them shouted. Laser fire ripped through the passage. Seria grabbed Elias and pulled him into the lift as beams sizzled past. Elias slammed the panel and the doors closed again, just in time. Energy bolts blasted against them from outside, leaving glowing dents in the metal. Inside the lift, darkness surrounded them except for faint emergency lights. Elias slumped against the wall, breathing hard. Seria pressed a hand to her chest, steadying herself. We made it, he whispered. For now, Seria replied. The lift groaned downward, descending into the forgotten depths of the station. The hidden array. When the doors opened again, they stepped into a vast room half buried in dust. Old control terminals lined the walls. Large cables hung from the ceiling like metal vines. At the center stood the hidden communication array, a cylindrical tower covered in pale blue crystal panels. Seria approached it with reverence. This is Ethrin tech. It was hidden here long before the Syndicate gained influence. Elias walked around the array, examining the power relays. It's old, very old, but I think it still works. Seria handed him the glowing crystalline device. This holds the evidence. Once the array is active, insert this at the core. Elias nodded. Let's power it up. He opened an access panel and frowned. The power cell is drained. We need another source. Seria touched her fingers to a crystal panel. Her skin glowed again. Instead of her usual faint shimmer, her whole arm lit up with bright energy. Elias stared. You can power machines. Only small ones, and only for a short time. That's enough. Elias guided her to the correct connection point. She pressed her hand against it. The array vibrated softly as blue light spread across its surface. Elias hurried around the console, activating old controls. It's heating up, stabilizing. The floor rumbled, the tower lit from bottom to top. It's online. Seria stepped back, breathing heavily from the energy transfer. Now the last part, Elias said, the evidence. Seria approached the core and placed the glowing device into the crystal slot. Light exploded upward through the tower. A deep hum filled the air. The message was sending across the station, breaking through Syndicate interference. It's working, Seria said softly. The Union will receive everything. But before Elias could smile, the room shook violently. A massive figure stepped through the lift entrance. Rothkal, the Syndicate leader. The alien was huge, taller than any other Syndicate soldier Elias had seen. Armor thicker, darker, etched with red markings of a high-ranking leader. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. Ambassador Seria, human, you have caused much trouble. Seria stepped in front of Elias. Rothkal. The Syndicate leader spread his clawed hands. Your message will not reach anyone. Elias shouted, it already has. Rothkal laughed, a deep, rattling sound. No, you activated the array, but I activated the explosives. This room will collapse in minutes. Elias' blood ran cold. Explosives. Seria drew a defensive blade of bright blue energy from her wrist. Elias, she said quietly, finish the transmission. I will hold him. He stared at her. You can't fight him alone. I must. Rothkal charged. Seria leapt forward, clashing with him. Energy sparks lit the room as they fought. Rothkal swung with crushing force. Seria dodged and struck with speed and skill. But he was massive, each hit shook the floor. Elias forced himself to focus. He ran to the control terminal. Warning lights flashed. Stabilization failure, collapse imminent. He searched for a way to lock the transmission. If the array went down too early, the evidence might not fully reach the Union. I need 1 more minute, he shouted. Seria didn't answer. She was too busy dodging a massive strike that slammed into the floor, cracking metal. Rothkal roared, you think humans can save anyone, pathetic creatures. Elias glared at him across the room. Maybe we can't fight like you, he said, but we fix things and I'm fixing this. He slammed his fist on the final switch. Transmission locked, data sent. The tower glowed intensely. Seria used the moment of Rothkal's distraction to strike his side. He howled in pain. But then he swung his tail and knocked Seria across the floor. She crashed into a console and collapsed, gasping. Elias stepped forward without thinking. Get away from her. Rothkal turned. You, what will you do, little mechanic? Elias grabbed a heavy power tool from the console floor, a plasma cutter. He had no idea how to fight, but adrenaline pushed him forward. Rothkal raised his claw. Before he could strike, the floor beneath him cracked. The explosives had already weakened the structure. Metal groaned. A deep rumble echoed. Seria, Elias shouted, we need to leave now. She forced herself to her feet, limping. Behind them, the tower continued glowing, the message successfully sent. Rothkal roared in fury and charged again. Elias grabbed Seria's arm. Together they ran to the lift as the room began collapsing. Sparks rained down, beams tore loose, the air filled with dust. They crashed into the lift and hit the emergency close button. The doors shut just as the main floor gave way. The last thing Elias saw was Rothkel falling into darkness, roaring in rage. Aftermath. The lift carried them upward in silence. Elias leaned against the wall, shaking, barely able to stand. Seria clutched her ribs, breathing deeply. "Are you all right?" Elias asked. "I will recover," she said softly. "Thank you, Elias Ward. Without you the truth would have been lost." Elias laughed weakly. "I was just fixing things." She smiled. "You did much more." When the lift doors opened, station security, real security, stood ready. Their leader bowed to Seria. "We received the transmission," he said. "The Union fleet is already on the way. The Syndicate's influence is broken." Seria turned to Elias. "He saved this station," she said. "He is my partner in this mission, and I hope he remains my partner in the future." Elias felt a strange warmth in his chest. Not fear. Not panic. Something else. Maybe pride. Maybe purpose. A new beginning. Later that night, after medical scans and long debriefings, Elias sat alone on a quiet balcony overlooking the stars. Seria joined him. "You handled yourself well," she said. "I was terrified the whole time." "Courage is not a lack of fear," Seria said softly. "It is choosing to act even when fear is great." They stood in silence, watching ships move across the void. Then Seria's communicator chimed. She checked it and her expression darkened. "What is it?" Elias asked. She showed him the screen. A message encrypted, no sender ID. Only one line of text. "The war has only begun. The human must be ready." Elias stared at it for a long time. Seria looked at him. "Are you ready, Elias Ward?" He took a slow breath. "Yeah," he said, "I think I am." The stars glowed brighter as the screen faded to black.